the improvements that have gone on in the English education system over the last few years have hit a plateau. Therefore, doing more of the same is not an option. And clearly the issue of leadership is at the core of all of this.
My philosophy is very much the right people doing the right jobs at the right time.
There is no one toolkit, there is no one size fits all.
It seems to me that the notion of a standalone small primary school in the 21st century is redundant.
Right across the country, there are many examples of new school leadership structures emerging. This programme takes a look at 2 success stories where new leadership ideas have helped turn around struggling schools, and asks educational researchers from Manchester University to comment on the wider picture.
Montini Primary School has approximately 21% free school meals, about 30% special needs. We've got an average number of children with statements.
Nicole Shipman is the executive head teacher of Montini and Foxhill Primary Schools in Sheffield. In 2007, the schools formed what's called a soft federation, where each school has its own governing body. Since taking on Foxhill, Nicole is beginning to see improvements using the leadership structures she developed at Montini.
I've done a lot of work in creating a new leadership team within the school, very much focusing on developing leaders, succession planning, giving people responsibility. We now are a school that are above national and local figures, and we were deemed to be outstanding in July 2007, which was absolutely fantastic. But have a look at that, it is live from today.
The leaders in our case study schools manage the tension between working outside of the school and beyond the school, keeping close eye on the quality of teaching and learning very well. So they were active around school, they were still high profile. They hadn't become some sort of detached CEO figure.
I'm conscious about, bullying the edges with people like the inclusion manager, the engagement half a term. Absolutely. In a way, we've got a starting point. Many head teachers are busy day to day with sort of the mundane, the parents knocking at the door, the toilets, the drains, all of those sorts of things. But roles like the school business manager has enabled me to lead very much on the teaching and learning and the strategic vision for the school, and the more day-to-day running structures, systems, procedures are sort of led by her. So it's empowered different leaders really. We're looking at reconfiguring for the federation.
Montini and Foxhill are part of a group of local primary schools that collaborate to maximise resources. After her success at turning round Montini, the group suggested that Nicole take a look at the struggling Foxhill.
I spoke to the LA and said, what's happening at Foxhill, would love to be part of it. So I was absolutely delighted in July 2007 when they approached the school and the governing body with a view to me becoming the executive head. It was a soft governance role at the moment with agreement from both governing bodies. The school was very susceptible to going into special measures. Foxhill hasn't been above floor targets for over 8 years. 4 weeks ago we came out of notice to improve as a satisfactory school with good features. So a lot of work stabilising staff, using the skill set that was in the school. Obviously I was quite apprehensive because I didn't want people to feel that it was, do it the Montini way, because actually Foxhill is very different in terms of the catchment and in terms of the children. And I was very honest with the staff, very passionate, very committed to wanting to make a difference. They were very much wanting to fly, but unfortunately I think they'd had their wings clipped. So, we said go for it. And many of them said, we've wanted this, and it's been the making of the school actually. They've lifted their head up, seen what's going on. We have a senior leadership team at Montini and a senior leadership team at Foxhill. Both leadership teams have a school business manager, an assistant head and a deputy head. And obviously myself as executive head. There are some teaching roles that are shared, so we have the lead professional for modern foreign languages working at Montini part-time and Foxhill part-time. I've also developed joint staff meetings, joint inset days, which obviously has had the benefit of supporting the children's learning. Next year and the year after, over 50% of Sheffield head teachers are going to be retiring, so there is a real succession planning issue for Sheffield.
To help face future leadership challenges, Nicole and the governing bodies of both schools are exploring the possibilities of a hard federation.
What we are consulting on at the moment is a proposal for a hard federation of Montini Primary School and Foxhill Primary School. So that would mean a joint governing body and then an executive head, school leaders based in each school, a federation business manager and then assistant head stroke deputy heads forming the leadership, the strategic leadership team for the federation. And then that would be supported by a management team of TLRs and non-teaching managers for the pastoral role and the inclusion manager's role.
The days of just appointing heads to small schools, I think, is fast coming to an end. I think the idea of bringing people into executive situations inside federations is inevitably the way that things are going.
As a head teacher, I think I'm a bit of a risk taker and I like innovation. And, I say to the staff, if it doesn't work, we'll sort it out. Let's think creatively, let's think, innovation.
I think that the recognition that we need to do something different has increasingly led to the idea that we need local strategies. Their first priority is to do everything possible for today's children as they go into the classrooms to experience their lessons. What we're now saying is, as well as making sure that is of the highest quality, your task now is to take on quite a senior role in terms of coordinating this collective community effort to link education to economic, social development.
School federations have also been proven to work between primary and secondary schools. One example is the Canterbury High School in Kent, which is federated with Bowhern Primary School. Collectively, they're part of the Canterbury campus, which includes a nursery, a sports facility and an adult education centre.
We're finding that these new structural arrangements are evolving, especially where there's a history of low attainment or in particularly challenging circumstances.
In 1993, we were named and shamed by the Daily Express as being one of the worst 20 schools in the country because we had 4% 5A to C. We then determined upon a course of action, which was significant curriculum reform, a concentration, a relentless concentration on teaching and learning, workforce remodelling, which over a period of time has led to a curriculum which enables students to choose a route way and a pathway that they know is likely to give them the best chance of success.
We are the highest performing non-selective school in the country. In terms of the ambition to be fully extended at the centre of our community, we are.
We've gone from a school where students would very often leave feeling that they've not achieved as much as perhaps they would like, to a high-performing school, to an outstanding school.
The features of what we've seen, particularly in the most encouraging examples, is the development of certain attitudes and skills, particularly amongst senior colleagues. People who are prepared to experiment and take risks, and sometimes that's quite difficult when you're in a very challenging circumstance. I think people whose instinct is to want to work with other people.
The federation is a hard federation of a primary school and a secondary modern high school. There is one governing body and one head teacher, myself. On the primary school site, there is a preschool and nursery, which we're just in the process of taking over the management leadership of. So in terms of educational provision, I'm directly responsible for 4 to 19. But there's also, as I say, the nursery, so it's 0 to 19, and if you include adult education behind me, it's 0 to 99. So the concept is lifelong learning, cradle to grave.
Canterbury High formed a soft federation with Bowhern Primary in 2004, and then in April 2005 they became an all-through hard federation.
It's a relationship that's grown over the years, and it started off with a feeling that we would be working together and we might benefit a lot from the high school. And what's happened in reality is that we've both benefited from each other. So we're able to give them some support with the curriculum, which has meant that they've taken on a thematic, creative, topic-based curriculum based on what we did in the junior school. From our end, we benefit from resources. So we're able to run smaller classes, high levels of adult support. We're able to run specialist services, so we have specialisms in modern foreign language, in music and in sport. These are things that primary schools just generally don't offer as a matter of course because the budget doesn't allow it.
Also on the campus there is a £4.5 million sports centre. We're a designated 2012 Olympic and Paralympic training facility and a performing arts centre. The management structure is distributed leadership. People ask me a question which is a stupid question. They ask me, when you're not there, who runs the school? And my answer is the same people who run it when I am.
There are two deputies, myself and Nicky Mattin, operate as deputies here, and we have a number of assistant heads looking after the various aspects of the campus itself.
There is a head of learning for the secondary, there is a head of community projects and finance, and then there are a range of assistant head teachers, all of whom have responsibility for aspects of learning across the school or across the campus. So in total, the leadership team is 13.
It's quite an unusual structure in that it's very flat, in that the head actually allows people to do their own thing and to be responsible and to take risks. And I think that's one of the things that marks the schools out. Over the years, we've been enabled to take the sort of risky decisions that other people think, how did you ever get there?
It is unreasonable to expect that one person could possibly manage and lead it, or it would be an act of supreme arrogance to believe that anybody could. Therefore I don't try. Therefore my role is essentially a coordinating one which allows other people to get on and deliver things that are in the interest of the children and the wider community.
Through our research, we've tried to look at some of the interesting experiments that are going on around the country, and I think the thing that's really excited me is how much change is going on. The better teamwork, better collaboration creates a capacity for change and improvement. It's a natural extension for them to say, well, if we're doing this within our organisation, can't we do it with other organisations, with other schools, but also with community organisations, local businesses, universities. Once they get that mindset, the potential is enormous.
It's come about over a period of time as a result of exploiting opportunities rather than the fulfilment of a particular dream. The primary school some time ago was in special measures, and it was believed that by associating itself with a secondary that was perceived to be hugely successful, it would of itself assist the primary school to improve. Since then, the sports centre was developed, performing arts was developed, and adult education then moved on to site. So in that sense, it was driven both by an educational need and a community need. Nationally speaking, secondary schools have got away with murder in terms of small sixth form numbers, small class numbers and small key stage 4 numbers. The amount of the expense of that could be rationalised and the resources ploughed into early years, and some of the difficulties that secondary schools then face could be solved by early intervention in the primary, and I think that's a model that should be explored nationally. It's a really important thing.
The research that we are doing is in contexts where the innovations that we are looking at are still at the very early stages. Having said that, we see some very interesting patterns that are emerging, which are a source of encouragement. These patterns really are about establishing new working relationships within schools, new working relationships between schools, and especially, I think, new working relationships between schools and their communities. Now, when we look particularly at the most challenging circumstances in our education system, it seems to me this is a very promising way forward.